Welcome to my video on AWS tutorial. Today, we are diving into the exciting world of website hosting on AWS. I will walk you through the process of setting up your own website from scratch with a custom domain and configuring it with an SSL certificate for an extra security, ensuring that your visitors' requests are served over HTTPS. What this functionally means is that data is going to be encrypted before reaching the server. Our toolkit for this demo include Route 53, CloudFront, ACM, that's AWS Certificate Manager, and an S3 bucket. So let's jump right in. Before we get started, let me show you the architecture diagram to give you a clear picture of what we will be building. This is the infrastructure you will be able to create at the end of this video. When a user visits a website, let's say n4techunit.com, the journey begins with Route 53. Route 53 is the internet phone book. It translates domains into IP addresses, making sure you land on the right website. Next, the request hits CloudFront. What is CloudFront? CloudFront is a content delivery network that ensures lightning fast data delivery. At this point, an SSL certificate is going to step in to ensure the request is encrypted via HTTPS, protecting your data from potential threats. HTTPS is crucial as it encrypts user data before it reaches the server, thereby blocking any hacking attempt. Finally, CloudFront fetches the web page contents from an S3 bucket, serving it back to the user, allowing them to view your web page. What's fascinating about CloudFront is its caching feature, which store content in H locations, making subsequent visit even faster and cost-effective. With CloudFront in place, when a user, say user 1, visit a web page or your website, contents requested are going to be fetched from an S3 bucket and sent back to that user. These contents are also cached in an edge location such that if a second user requests the same page, he is going to benefit from the cached data in the edge location. This helps in reducing latency. Throughout this video, I will guide you through building this architecture step by step for your own website hosting. Let's break down the entire process into 4 simple steps for better understanding. Step 1, we are going to be buying a domain, and this is going to be done in Route 53. In step 2, we are going to be creating an S3 bucket and uploading files. In step 3, we are going to be enabling HTTPS with ACM, that's AWS Certificate Manager. And in step 4, we are going to be creating our CloudFront distribution. So without any waste of time, let's head over to Route 53. If you don't see any of this here, you just want to type in here Route 53, and then you click on it. It's going to take you to the page, to that page. So in your case, it might take you to the landing page. If it takes you to this page, what you want to do is to click on this hamburger here, and then you go to register domains. Once you get to register domain, click on register domains. When you click here, you enter your domain, you enter your custom domain, but the name is supposed to be unique. So in my case, I'm going to enter n4techunit.com. So once you enter your domain here, you are going to click on search. Once you click on search, it might give you a match, or it might tell you the domain is already it has already been taken by someone else. So in my case, the domain is an exact match. It is available, n4techunit.com. So I'm going to go ahead and click on select. So while I click on select, I'm going to be authenticated to proceed to checkout. So I click on checkout here. It's going to give me the pricing per year, which is what, $13 per year. So what I'm going to do is to click on next. Once I click on next, it's going to ask me to enter my contact information, and I'm going to enter my contact information accordingly. And then I'm going to click on next. It's going to take me to a second page, which is so that I can review the information I entered. So I'm going to scroll down and review. Everything is okay. I'm going to agree to the terms and services, and I'm going to do what? I'm going to submit. So once I submit, I'm going to click here to check the status. So it shows me that that it is in progress. So this is going to take like 2 to 3 hours in order for the domain to be available. So I'm going to pause my video and come back later. So my domain has successfully been created after about 2 hours, but in some cases, it might take more than that. So if I hit under registered domains, I should see n4techunit.com among the domains that are owned by me. What happens is that when you create a domain, AWS create a hosted zone for you. So if I head over to hosted zone, I'm going to see n4techunit among the hosted zones that belongs to me. So what is a hosted zone? A hosted zone represents a set of records that belongs to a specific domain. In my case here, I have 2 records. I have the NS records and I have the SOA record. If you deleted your hosted zone, you want to make sure that the values you have here matches the ones that you have under registered domains. So if you compare them and see that there's a difference, you want to make sure that you copy the ones that you have under hosted zones, come over here, click on edit name servers, and then fill them here so that they should be the same. So we are done with step 1, which is creating a domain in AWS Route 53. We are going to go to step 2, which is creating our S3 bucket for static website hosting and uploading our files. So let me head over to S3 management console landing page. So I'm going to just type S3 in this search bar here, and I'm going to click on S3. I'm going to click on S3. So once I do that, I'm in S3 Management Console. So what are we going to do here? We're going to start by creating our S3 buckets. Remember, your bucket name needs to be universally unique. So mine is going to be n4.live. n4.live is the name of my S3 bucket. So I'm going to change my bucket view to Oregon. And I'm going to scroll all the way down and click on create. So this is all you have to do to create an S3 bucket in AWS. So we are going to make some few configurations on this S3 bucket so that we can host our website on it. So I'm going to click on my bucket name, and the first configuration we are going to make on this bucket is going to be enabling versioning. So enabling versioning for an S3 bucket helps you maintain historical versions of your files. This is crucial because what? It allows you to recover previous versions of your files in case of accidental deletions or changes, providing data protection and also ensuring content integrity. So how do I enable versioning on this bucket? I'm going to click on properties. When I click on properties, I'm going to see that bucket versioning here is set to enable. So I'm going to click on this edit button, and I'm going to check this button to enable versioning on my S3 bucket, and I'm going to click on changes. So that is all you need to do in order to enable versioning on an S3 bucket. The first setting we are going to make on this bucket is going to be to enable static website hosting. So enabling static website hosting on an S3 bucket allow you to serve web content directly from the bucket. It turns the bucket into a web server, making it possible to host static HTML, JavaScript, CSS files, and more. This simplifies website deployment and management. So how do we enable static website hosting on this S3 bucket? We can see that it is set to disable here. So to enable it, you just need to click on edit button and you check this enable button here. So you want to come down here to specify the home or default page for your website. So what I'm going to enter here is going to be index.html, and then I also have this error, error document. So I don't have an error page for my website. I'm still going to enter what index.html, but you can leave that part empty if you want. And this is all we have to do in order to enable static website hosting on this S3 bucket. So click on Save Changes. That's all. And we are going to have to do another settings, two more settings actually on this S3 bucket. So the next setting that we are going to make is going to be making this bucket publicly accessible. Now, making the S3 bucket publicly accessible means that anyone on the internet can access the file stored on the bucket. This is essential for serving web contents to users worldwide. However, making an S3 bucket public should be done cautiously, as it exposes your data to the public internet. So how do we achieve this? We do that by clicking on this permission tab. And then if we look here, we're going to see that it is set to blocking public access. So we click on our edit button and we check this box. Once we check this box and click on save, we are going to have to confirm it. So all you need to do is to type confirm in here and click on confirm. That's all. You have successfully make your S3 bucket publicly accessible. The last setting that we want to make on this bucket is to add policy for public access. So it is important to note that adding a policy to allow public access to the S3 bucket object is a security configuration that determines who can access the object within the S3 bucket. By crafting a specific policy, you can control which users or groups are granted public access, ensuring that your content is accessible to the intended audience while maintaining proper security. So to add policy for public access, you need to click on this edit button, and I'm going to head over to Google and get that policy from AWS documentation. So I'm going to type setting permissions for website access on S3. So I'm going to select this and I'm going to click on this. This is documentation from AWS itself. I'm going to scroll all the way down and copy that policy. So I'm going to click right here to copy that policy, and I will head over to AWS Management Console. I'm going to paste that policy in here. So the only thing I'm going to change on this policy is going to be replace this bucket dash name to my actual bucket name. So I'm going to grab my bucket name here. I'm going to come under here and replace it. So this is all you have to do. I'm going to actually backspace once because I messed up the policy. So what does this policy actually mean? We have the version line here. This specifies the version of the policy language being used. And then this statement is actually an array of policy statements that defines permissions. In this case, there's a single statement. So we also have the SID line here. It is a unique identifier for the statement. It helps in referencing the statement later. And then we have the effect, and the effect is set to allow. This specifies whether the statement allow or denies the specified action. In this case, allow indicates that the action is permitted. The next one we have here is the next line here is principal, which defines the entity to which the permission applies. And the asterisk sign that we have here, the asterisk or wildcard sign that we have here means the policy applies to all users and entities. The next line here is action, and this specifies the action being allowed. Here it is set to S3 get object, which grants permissions to retrieve objects from the S3 bucket. And the last line we have here is resource, which defines the resource name of the resource to which the permissions applies. In this policy, it applies to all objects within the n4.live S3 bucket. So I'm going to go all the way down and I'm going to click on save. So these configurations collectively enable you to efficiently host and deliver static website content using an S3 bucket, while also providing the necessary control for data versioning, security, and access management. So what next are we going to do? We are going to upload our files to this S3 bucket. So I'm going to head over to my IDE. my Visual Studio Code right here. So the file has already been prepared, our index.html file. So these are the contents. These are web contents that we are going to upload into that S3 bucket. So let's head over to AWS Management Console. To upload that file, we have to click on this upload button right here, and then we click on add files. And this is going to take us to our local machine. We are going to select this file here, index.html, and click on open. And then after that, we have to scroll all the way down and click on upload. That is all we have to do. So the files are being uploaded. And if we come back here, we are going to see the file here, index.html file. So if we come back to properties and scroll all the way down, we are going to see our S3 endpoint here. And if we click on this S3 endpoint, we are going to see that our website is live. But we have a problem here because it is showing that our website is not secure. So your connection to this site is not secure. So this is not what we want. And this is going to take us to step 3. So we are done with step 1, which was buying a domain in Route 53 AWS. And we are done with step 2, which was creating an S3 bucket and uploading file. So let's head over to step 3, which is enabling HTTPS with ACM, that is AWS Certificate Manager. So let's go over to AWS Management Console. Now, let's jump over to AWS Certificate Manager to enable HTTPS. This ensures that secure connections are established between your visitors and your website. So I'm just going to type ACM here, and I'm going to select Certificate Manager. So I'm going to click on it once. So it's going to it has taken us to the landing page of our AWS Certificate Manager. So we are going to go ahead and click on Request Certificate. You can also click on this one here. It's all the same. So you click on Request a public. You request on Request Certificate, and you select what? You select Request a public certificate, and then you click on Next. Once you click on next, it's going to ask you to enter a fully qualified domain name. So I'm going to head over to Route 53 and copy in order to grab my domain name. I don't want to make a mistake in typing. So I'm going to go over here. The one I'm working with is n4techunit.com. So I'm going to come under registered domain, and I'm going to grab this one right here, n4techunit.com. So I'm going to go back to AWS Certificate Manager, and I'm going to paste that value in here. So the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to leave my validation method to DNS, and I'm going to scroll all the way down and leave every other thing default. I'm not going to add any tag. So I'm just going to click on the request button. So I'm going to click on view certificates here. So this shows that the status is pending. What I have to do next is to click on create record in Route 53, and this is going to automatically create some records for me in AWS Route 53. So I'm going to click on create records and also create records again right here. So let's refresh the page. Let's refresh the page and click again on create record. So it has created some records for us in a Route 53. So if we head over to Route 53 here, and we go under our hosted zones and click on n4techunit.com, we are going to actually see that a new record has been created. Remember, earlier we had just 2 records, which was NS record and SOS and SOA record. Right now we have another type of record, which is CNAME. If we head over to AWS Certificate Manager, we are going to see that the status is still pending. So it always takes like 10 to 15 minutes for the certificate to be provisioned. So I'm not going to sit here and wait. I'm going to pause my video and come back later. So our certificate has successfully been issued. It only took about 10 minutes for this to go through. So we are going to go back to our architecture diagram to see where we are right now. So we are done with our first step, we are done with second step, and we are done with third step. So we are going to go over to step 4, which is creating CloudFront's distribution. So we are going to set up CloudFront distribution for content delivery, and this is going to take advantage of the cache content in each location, making your website faster and more cost efficient, especially for returning visitors. So we are going to head over to AWS and get it done. So in AWS Management Console, I'm going to type CloudFront here in this search bar, CloudFront. I'm going to click on CloudFront. So in here, I'm going to click on Create Distribution. So when I click on Create Distribution, it's going to add me to provide an origin domain name. If I click in here, it's going to want me to connect directly to my S3 bucket, but that's not what I want. I'm going to head over to S3 Management Console and copy the endpoint. So I'm going to click on here, open it in a new tab. I'm going to go over there, select the bucket that we want to, bucket we are using to host our website. And I'm going to click on properties, scroll all the way down. And I'm going to copy from here all the way to before these 2 forward slashes. So I'm going to copy, Control C to copy. I'm going to come back to CloudFront distribution and I'm going to provide that endpoint. So the other settings I'm going to make here is going to be scroll all the way down. I'm going to scroll all the way down, and the next setting is going to be to redirect our HTTP to HTTPS. So I'm going to scroll down again, leaving every other thing default. I'll scroll down, and I'm going to check this one, do not enable security protection. I'll scroll down again, and I'll have to add an alternate or domain name here. So I'm going to head over to S3 console, and I'm going to copy this one, n4techunit.com, as my alternate domain. I'm going to paste it in here, and I'm going to scroll down again. Here I have to select my custom certificate. So I'm going to click on this drop down arrow and select the one that we created earlier. And I'll scroll down again. I think that's all. So I'm going to click on create distribution. So this should take a couple minutes to go through. So you can see the status here is deploying. Last modified, so it is deploying. It's going to take a couple minutes to go through. It's going to take a couple minutes to go through. So I'm going to pause the video and come back later when it must have gone through successfully. So our CloudFront distribution has been successfully provisioned after some few minutes. And if I grab this distribution domain name and paste it in the browser, I should be able to access our web page. So I'm able to access our web page, but this is not what we want. We want to be able to enter our domain and access our web page. For example, n4techunit.com. But if I do this, I will not be able to access our web page. So how am I going to achieve that? I'll head over to AWS to S3 or to Route 53, and I will click on this hosted zone, and I'm going to create a new record. All I'm going to do here is to toggle this to alias, and I'm going to choose an endpoint. The endpoint should be CloudFront distribution, and I'm going to choose an alias. So I'm going to choose this one we created right here. And I think that's all. The next thing I'm going to do is going to be just click on create a record. So the record has been created. It took just a few minutes. So I'm going to click on here. It's still on pending though. So I'm going to give it some time to change from pending to available. So I'm going to have to pause the video and come back in some few minutes. So after a few minutes, the status has changed from pending to in sync. So I'm going to refresh here, and I'm going to come back to our hosted zone. If I go back to this page and refresh, the page is still not loading. So I'm going to come back to Route 53. I'm going to come back to Route 53, and I'll grab this domain here, infotecunit.com, and I'm going to replace it here and hit enter. So our web page is live. So we can see that it is also secured. So connection to our website is secured. So this is exactly what we wanted to achieve. So this is the end of today's demo. Watch out for the next video. Thank you for watching. And please subscribe to my channel for more content.